and then after this meeting, we'll have the special board meeting. With respect to public comment, 3 people have signed up on the sheet so far, and what we'd like to ask you to do is if you want to comment on the finance or facilities portion of tonight, that's what this part is. This is your opportunity for this meeting. So of the 3 people, it's Mary Chan. John, excuse me. Do you want to do finance facilities?
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening, my name is Mary
Push the
Chan.
button.
All right, I'll start again. Good evening, my name is Mary Chan, and I teach at Guth Elementary School, and I'm the president of the Pennridge Education Association. Tonight I represent the teachers of Pennridge in supporting your decision to fully raise taxes to the cap of 3.61. Our district has strived to be fiscally responsible. We've maintained one of the lowest per pupil costs in educating our students, while at the same time our teachers' salaries have remained in the bottom quartile when compared to other districts in both Bucks and Montgomery counties. Our dedicated staff has worked tirelessly to reach AYP each year, and in fact our high school has been highly ranked at both the state and national levels. Raising to cap will ease the pain forecasted for the 2014-15 school year by Mrs. Johnson during the May Finance Committee meeting. She stated we will begin the year millions of dollars in the red, even with the current raise in taxes. This will likely mean more reductions in staffing, increased class sizes, and programming cuts. The association supports your decision to tax to the cap. This decision will not eliminate our financial crisis, but it does help minimize its future impact. Wise decisions now will help ensure the long-term educational needs of the students we serve in our schools. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Charles Healy, Bedminster.
Hi. I'm talking about the review of the bid to demolish the bleachers at Papiota Field, and I have some questions about it. I'd like to know if the scrap value of the bleachers were taken into consideration in the bid process.
Mr. Healy, we're going to take your questions and answer them. We're not going to go back and forth answering the questions. The bid specs are, I'm sure that my personal opinion is yes, of course, but that's up to the contractor. You know, our new council, our latest council, has asked us to not get into this back and forth kind of, question and answer. So we'll definitely write your questions down, come back, and later on in the meeting, when that document, the bid document becomes public information, then that'll be in there, possibly be in there. I don't think that we'll know the value of the scrap, but
I'm just asking whether it was in the bid document that there was a consideration for the value of the scrap of the aluminum. It's 54 cents a pound. There's an awful lot of poundage out there, probably to the tune of $60,000, and by my best judgment, and I wanted to know whether that was a factor in selecting a vendor to do this work. We're paying him $78,000 to tear these bleachers down, and I'm simply asking whether he's getting $78,000 plus whatever he can get for the scrap, or did the administration and the school district do their due diligence in determining the scrap value and then factoring that into a combined price for taking these down. The other concern I have is that I think that we should have contacted the Association of School District Business Managers to see whether there were any school districts that would like to take these bleachers and retrofit them, because 2-3 months ago, we had a conversation here about a Western Pennsylvania school district that couldn't afford to build bleachers, and they were doing some kind of fundraising, and they raised like $56,000. And of course, these things, if you buy them new, it goes into the millions. So it would be a good gesture to do that before we committed to have these scrapped. It would help a poor district that's not as rich as we are here on the East Coast, you know, to help them out. Also, they could be put on the public buying website, and school districts and others look at that, and so the combination of those two things might be able to help out a poorer district out in western Pennsylvania. So those are the concerns I have, and with that, I would ask that we table any decision tonight to award this bid pending looking into these other possible uses and contacts before we summarily scrap them. And I would still like some follow-up on whether the bid document had a scrap value, or whether the school district did not do that due diligence to determine what kind of price they'd be willing to pay, combination of scrap value and cost of taking down the bleachers. So I still reserve an answer for that. You say I can get that answer when we get to that item in the agenda?
I'm saying that we're going to review it at that point in the meeting. It'll become a public document, and I'm not going to get into, we're not going to do this and get into this type of exchange. Our specs are what they were.
Well, what is the purpose of public?
You know what, Mr. Healy, I'm trying to be nice about it. Your time's already up. You're already 5 minutes in on 3 minutes.
This young lady gave me her 3 minutes. She's
Well,
not speaking.
We're not going to be answering questions about the process, okay?
Then what's the purpose of public comment?
Well, you can make your comment, and that's your comment. It's not a debate. It's not a deposition.
So we can't get information.
Not a public deposition.
We can't get information. We can only say what's on our
You
mind.
get the same information that we get, okay? We're the board. We have a process. We're going through this. We spec it out. We bid it out. We accept a low bid. Like we do every time with every other project we do.
But maybe
Just
the
because you don't like it,
methodology did not take into consideration the magnitude of the scrap value in awarding the contract.
Well, that's up to the contractor, because we maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But, you know, I'm already debating way more than I want to be. So your time's up. You should respectfully, you know, let the next person come to the mic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, the next person is Jerry Buckman.
Hi, I'm Jerry Buckman. I live in Percy. Good evening. I'm speaking here tonight because I'm a community member in the Pennridge School District, and I'm very concerned that the school board's misplaced priorities might be jeopardizing the quality of education for our children. I'm afraid that the school board is so focused on cutting the budget and lowering taxes that they may also be losing sight of their real purpose to help the district provide a great education for our children. According to what I read in the paper, the board passed a budget with an increase of 3.6% for the 14 to 15 school year. But board members immediately started talking about hoping to cut that. Then I see on the district webpage that the board is trying to get the increase down to 2.75%, which would save the median taxpayer only $33 a year. You can't even go to McDonald's anymore for that. My question is simple. Why are our students not worth $33? On top of that, the district website states that in order to achieve the lower tax rate, the district will be taking over $400,000 from funds earmarked for next year's non-routine maintenance and technological needs. Isn't that robbing Peter to pay Paul? Why is the district dipping into the savings to pay for such a measly change in tax rate? And why are we taking the money from our savings account for the technological purchase of all things? In today's technologically centered world, we should be adding money to our technology accounts, not taking money out to save the average taxpayer just a few dollars. And most of all, I'm concerned about where this is all going and whether other members of the community are aware of it. I know a few years ago we had 2 years in a row with no tax increase. Now we're talking about taking money out of technology funds to lower the tax rate by fractions of a percent. What does this mean for our students? Are they still getting the great education that Pennridge has been known for? And if they are, will they continue to do so? Or will their future be damaged by the school board's focus on lowering taxes? I don't like paying taxes any more than the next person, but school taxes represent the very idea of what I want my taxes to do. When we pay school tax, we each pay a relatively small amount of money into our community to create a large pool of money, and then that money is invested in our children and in our future. I don't want to sacrifice that future to save myself $33. And I don't think most of my neighbors do either. We need to let you know that we value our children's futures and that we want to do our part to give them the best possible education that our community can provide. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who didn't get a chance to sign up because of the crowd? All right. Also, with regard to the crowd, we couldn't move anywhere else tonight. Sorry about that. There's school activities, athletic, just different school activities. We couldn't go anywhere else, so thanks for all coming out. Sorry, it's usually not this cramped. So with that, we're going to get started with the first item on facilities agenda, which is review of the district energy guidelines and some requests. Is that going to be you, Mrs. Johnson?
Mr. Loeffler and Mrs. Stouffer are representing the district this evening at a meeting in East Rockville Township for future projects that we're doing here in the township. So I'm pinch-hitting for both of them this evening. One of the items that we have on the agenda tonight is just a review of the district guidelines. And I do apologize, at your place tonight, I gave you a summary. It has events listed at the left-hand side. And I wanted to go over and just review the types of things that go on here in the buildings over the summer and why I'm tying this to district guidelines. As it's a wonderful thing that we open our buildings and we have lots of wonderful things going on for our children. We have in-service for our teachers, we have camps for our students, we have summer school for our students. As we expand those things, and require air conditioning to be turned on at a time when air conditioning typically would have been turned off, eventually that will become a budgetary issue. And tonight, I'm handing this out for you to give some thought to this. We're not asking you to make a decision. We are going to turn the air conditioning on this year for these particular events. However, at a future activities meeting, we're going to be requesting the board to consider an energy surcharge for any events that are held by outside organizations during a time period when school is typically not in session. That would be both for heating and air conditioning. Because I can't really tell people I'm going to charge them for turning on the air conditioning, but say if you come in the winter, I'll turn on the heat for you. So to me, heating and air conditioning are both very important for the comfort of those who are using our schools. Mr. Loeffler has provided an estimate as to what it costs per hour when we turn on the chiller here at the high school. To turn on the chiller alone costs $33.50. This is what, based on that information we received from Aeromark several years ago. Then you take that times the number of hours, and then for each additional room, we charge about $2 per room per hour for the air conditioning and or heating. One of the things that we're looking to do next year is to even consider focusing more central and having events held in one building over the summer rather than multiple buildings, so that we don't have multiple chillers having to be turned on. So this is more informational, to let you know, let you see what's actually going on in our buildings in the summer, and also to give you a head start for the August activities meeting where we'll be discussing future increases in the facilities rates for the energy surcharge.
Anybody have any comments, questions about that? No? Okay.
Some of these seem to be during the day. Are they on Fridays then, when it's closed?
No, they're actually they're during the week, but they're during the week when, like, the building itself would be closed, would have typically been closed, and the only place we would have been air conditioning would have been an office area. So now we're air conditioning, other larger areas. The one thing that's great about the new things that the district has put in and spent money is the fact that these areas are now zoned, so I can turn on the chiller and then turn on the air conditioning for a particular room. So we're not air conditioning the entire building. So that's a savings in itself that we're able to do that. But still, if we can get events eventually coordinated into one building and only turning on one chiller, we'll be able to hopefully keep our energy budget where it's at, because as we all know, we've done a great job, and we have our plaques up here, a great job conserving energy. We're starting to slowly creep, but we're using more. But in addition to that slow creep of using more, energy prices themselves, the raw product, is increasing in its cost. So again, 2 years ago, we took out over $1 million from Mr. Loeffler's budget for energy due to the savings and things that we have put in. So again, we're probably at about the break even, and I would think in next year's budget will be for the first time in many, many years asking for an increase in the energy budget. So again, we're just trying to be proactive, making sure that we're doing everything to maintain our costs, maintain the amount of energy that we're using.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think, Mr. Loeffler, do you want to do the bid results? Are you planning on doing that? I know you just got here, I didn't have a chance to see you before we started.
Yeah, I can do it. I have them ready.
Okay, so the second item on our agenda is a review of the bid results. Mr. Loeffler.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Casper. First bid is the maintenance truck replacement. This is for my maintenance staff, plumbing truck. We sent out 8 bids and received 4 back. Parent low bidder is Penske Buick GMC for $42,800. I'm sorry if I'm not reading these in the same order that your bid tabulations are in, got a little mixed up. I'm going to go to my next one, is pest control bid. We do a yearly, or shall I say every 3 years I go out for pest control. 3 years are up starting in July. So we sent 4 bids out and received 2 back. The apparent low bidder is Western Pest for a 3-year contract. First year will be $5,616. Second year will be $5,616. And year 3 it'll be $5,840.04. I think that's a misprint. I'm sorry, about 4 cents. For a total of $17,072 in 3 years. We also go out every 3 years for boiler cleaning. It's district-wide boilers. I had 4 bids were sent out, 3 received back. Apparent low bid is HSA Mechanical for a 3-year bid at $7,750 for year 1, $8,050 for year 2, and $8,350 for year 3. HSA's been our boiler cleaner probably for the last 6 years and is doing a very good job. District-wide furniture, bid number 15128. Hertz Furniture received many of the items at $10,384.44. Burco received $1,782.40. School Specialties, $962.20. And WB Mason for $9,461.25. That'd be a total of $22,590.29. Gym floor resurfacing, went out to bid for 2 schools, Penn South and Penn Central, to have their gym floors refinished. We sent 5 bids out, received 1 back. Parent low bidders, Devon Gym Floors. Penn South would be $12,300, and Penn Central would be $12,500. We have the trailer, band trailer, bid 15129, sent 6 bids out, received 1 back. Parent low bidder is Buckholder Trailer for $19,154. Van truck to go with the trailer, bid number 15130, we sent 8 bids out, received 4 bids back. Apparent low bidder is Bergey's Buick GMC at $30,846.50. We had an additional non-routine maintenance item that we'd like to put on there. From the water, ice, and snow buildup at Bedminster Elementary, we had a lot of water infiltration come in one of the classrooms that released some of the floor tiles that were there, the 9x9s. So we'd like to take care of that job as soon as school's out, to abate classroom number 9 with the floor tile, and then put new floor tile down. The abatement is $3,850, and the floor tile replacement is $2,418. Good questions?
Mr. Loeffler, would you also like to discuss the girls' locker room
Yes.
and Southwest Schools?
Yes. When I go out to bid, I ask the principals for a spreadsheet of what they want, and the South came back as boys' locker room repainting. And I wrote the bids that way, and the bids came back as boys' locker room repainting. Through discussion at the board meeting, I guess on May 28th, the discussion led into boys and girls, and that's the way the minutes were drawn up. But when I went back and looked, it was for the boys only. So I contracted the contractor to see what we did. Mrs. Hauser really wanted, obviously, the other locker room painted also, which I agree with. So talked to the contractor, he gave us the same price. They are identical lockers in the girls, and we do have money in the non-routine budget left over. So we're asking the board that we can also include the girls' locker room in that summer project. And that price is not right in front of me, but I believe it was $7,500, $7,900?
Around 7,700.
7,700, okay.
75.99.
Okay. So in the non-routine, which we were calling the $650,000 budget, the board approved us to spend $270,000. In that, with all the items that I brought last month, my bid tabulations this month, including the items we discussed tonight, we're still under that budget by $74,155.48.
Did that include the instruments in the 74,000? Or does the instruments need to come out of 74,000?
The instruments need to come out of the 74,000.
And we had put into the budget $40,000 for instruments, so right now, what Mr. Loeffler is telling you that when the budget is approved for 14-15, that we would have approximately $34,000 remaining in the non-routine maintenance budget for any items that come up throughout the year. I would like to say that when you pass the budget on July 1st, that nothing in the district is going to break and we're not going to have to buy anything else. However, that unfortunately does not happen, but those dollars do remain in that budget unless there is an item that comes up that's broken that needs to be replaced.
So these additional ones aren't on the agenda plan, so we're not going to go into all those. All right, thanks, Jeff. Is that the last one for you?
Yep, thank you.
I thought, in order to make it go a little more smoothly, we could go letter by letter and see who has questions on each one instead of just jumping all around. So, starting with 2A, maintenance truck replacement. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay. And the pest control bid, anybody wondering about that?
What is our cost this year? What are we paying now?
Skimming like 750. We're paying very close to the same, equal to the last 3 years.
The next one, C, boiler cleaning.
Same question.
Same answer.
D1 through 4, the district-wide furniture. Okay. E, the gym floor resurfacing at South and at Central. I had a couple questions about that. When was the last time we did these schools? Do you remember? Or I can't remember this before.
Long before my time. 10 plus years. North was the last one done when they remodeled North. That was done when I first came. I'm assuming the high school gym floor was also done during that project, but none of the elementary schools have been done in probably 15 or more years.
And what was the determining factor that it started to get too slippery or? Just
More
out
like
of
worn
curiosity,
down.
Why do we do it?
Worn down, scratches, lines starting to fade.
Does that include painting and everything?
They'll be sanding them down to the wood, refinishing them, painting the new lines and coats of urethane on top of it.
Thank you.
Jeff, since we only had one bid, since we only had one bid, is this price, I mean, what do we have to compare it to?
I can't really answer that, I don't know. I can do a little more research to find out. We sent 8 out, I believe. I'm sorry, we sent 5 out, 1 back.
We didn't have an estimate of what we thought going into it?
No, I did not. I know it's a reliable company that a lot of schools have used. It's not a fly-by-night company.
Yeah, if we can get more information before the board meeting when we have to vote,
Okay.
as a comm, yeah. Maybe what other schools pay or.
I can do that.
Okay, the next one is, any other questions on the floor? The next one is the band trailer. Anybody have any questions on that?
What was is this higher than what was on your budget previous? The 19,000?
It
For
was,
some reason I remember it being a little bit
the
lower.
quote was 17,000 something, yes.
I have a few questions. I was just wondering, the issue came up that it was a safety issue for the students. So I'm wondering, in discussions of what was determined, if the truck that is there now, if it's a safety problem, and do we need to replace it?
Well, we did replace the tailgate to make a wider tailgate as per the discussion with Mr. Benson, Dr. Radigan and myself to fit the xylophone. After that was accomplished, there was some discussion about some additional large boxes that need to be loaded. After we looked into that, we started to take a look at the truck itself. Also, we added some interior lighting for some safety reasons. We added electric to it, so if the truck was available to be plugged in, you could plug the truck in and use the additional lighting that way. My electrician also wired some lighting in for a future generator that we already purchased for that truck. We also found that the green boxes were built a long time ago and very heavy, and we have to come up with a solution, if that's the direction the board gives us, to purchase and fabricate 2 carts that would hold the panels that were in the green boxes. By moving the wheelbase forward, getting all wheels on the new lift gate itself, that one person could actually push that cart up onto the new tailgate, lock the wheels, just step back, raise the gate, and then push it in. But we put on hold until we found out what the recommendation was going to be from the board.
Are you done? How much, roughly about how much now have you put into that truck for all of these modifications?
9 or 10,000, roughly.
And if you were to replace it with a truck and a trailer, what happens, what's that truck's use then? If it's designated right now, it's designated, I take it, as the band's equipment truck.
It was originally purchased a long time ago for band and maintenance. Maintenance no longer really uses it. Technology may use it once in a blue moon. We may use it once in a blue moon, but we don't anymore. The truck, I guess we would sell. We didn't do a trade-in on that. Maybe we should have. Just get a trade-in price. I've seen prices anywhere from about 4,000 to sell, maybe up to 10,000.
Are you saying that we now have answers for the concerns? Have the band people looked at this and determined that there is in fact, there are answers that are acceptable as an alternate to purchase of the band truck and trailer? It's $50,000 for the band truck and trailer combination.
That's the impression I was left after the meetings, that our fix would be acceptable. Yes.
Could we get some information by the board meeting when we determine, when we decide which plan of action we're going to take?
Yes.
Dr. Raddick, I see Mr. Benson sitting there. Would it be all right, would you feel like answering a question or two? Related to the last comment?
Yeah, we could,
Because I think Mr. Thompson's bringing up a really good point. You know, the district buys this, and then we don't buy the right thing, then, you know, your area is a sensitive area sometimes. So, you know, we want to do the right thing, but is this the right equipment?
What we requested is, initially we came up with, I always have concerns about safety since I've come here. My second year as the high school band director. And Jeff has done really well at mitigating in the meantime, the immediate concerns we had with just the fundamental nature of how we reacted this year. The expenditures he made were in direct response to concerns and injuries we've incurred this year. The request we put in was for the trailer. When we applied for this solution, we didn't realize we'd also have to purchase the truck to go along with it. I was hoping, or was thinking, that we would already have something that could pull a trailer in the district, given the number of vehicles we have. Again, that was a knowledge base that I really hadn't thought of. But the trailer is a roll-on, roll-off, low impact, easy, as safe as you possibly can make, us getting $400,000 worth of equipment, and all the students have to move on and off that trailer. It's the safest route available. I'm always going to be, and Jeff has done really well, and we've met several times, and he's really gone really the distance to get us the solutions that we are using right now. I'm always going to have safety concerns with the truck. I just am, because we're lifting up 4 feet in the air, all of the stuff that we have, even given the solutions that we have. But I think that we looked at what we could use for not only just traveling, storage, also to stand on top of it so we could teach the band, because we have no way of actually visualizing the band as a compete. We're trying to solve as many problems as we could with one solution. So again, I can't speak to the truck that would pull it, but the solution that we have here is long-term, It's sturdy, and it's gonna last and be taken care of, and it's the safest option that I could possibly think of. It's the ones, if Central Bucks School District uses this option, everyone's going to this option for the same reason, because I think that the liability issues with injuries are gonna mount over time. I think that people have, when they've had to make those adjustments, this is the route they've gone in. So,
Okay, well, obviously, we don't want to see anybody get hurt, but it did, so that goes without saying. But the most important thing is if we get this, we don't want to have to hear like, oh, we can't get it over the curb, or it doesn't fit in the garage, or
I
whatever.
don't know about the garage.
We don't have a garage. So we don't have to worry about that.
Help them solve this. No, this is a long-term solution, which is going to equally last, I think, as long as the truck would last. I'm not sure what the longevity of that truck is going to be also. I can't speak because I don't know how many miles it has on it, Jeff. I don't even know what the age of it is. You have to speak to that, I guess. But,
The existing man truck?
yeah.
Well, speaking of Mr. Duke, with the miles that are being put on, that truck could last another 5 years easily.
I mean,
It's in fairly good shape.
yeah, I mean, overall, we haven't had too many issues overall here and there, but still, it would certainly do all the jobs given the setup that we have now in our facilities. So, we had that in mind given when we went to get specifications for the truck, specifically for our needs. The initial two companies that gave us the solutions to our issues, our questions, actually did not want to bidding on it because they couldn't afford the $1,000 or $2,000 up front in order to bid on that. So I think we only received one bid on the item at this stage because that company, I think, could put up that upfront money to put the bid in. But having said that, those specifications are clearly there. I'm assuming if they're agreeing to that bid, that they would be able to meet our needs.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much that bid was, how much the bid.
It was 19,000.
It's a couple thousand more than we had got the bid for from the companies that gave us the solution. So, but still, that's you know, in terms of the big picture, if we have to buy the truck along with it, it's a couple thousand, but it matters. But I mean, again, the price tag is large because apparently we don't have a vehicle that can pull a trailer here in the district. So.
Jeff, isn't it possible to just to take off the lift gate and get a hitch put on that truck, the current truck?
I had Mr. Duke look into it twice. They talked to Bergies or sent to Bergies to take a look, and they came back with no. They would not do it. They thought it was unsafe conditions.
So there's no truck that we have that could pull a trailer? And if we purchase the truck, I mean, would the truck have any other use? I mean, how many days of the year does the band use the truck?
I mean, jazz, indoor, other schools use it during when they have concert preparation, moving things back and forth. We're talking, I can't see more than 40 to 50 times between all of those events. I think it would be hard to say, depends on how many jazz competitions we do. But I think we estimate approximately no more than that, and other usage as well. I think for musical purposes, we're talking around 30, maybe a little bit more. It depends on how many middle schools and elementary schools use it. So. Because right now, currently the band truck, as I recall, like when South has to do a concert at a different school, they have to use the band truck. When we, other schools, they don't always give their concerts in the school that they're based upon. And so I know that they're using the truck for those purposes in the spring and the winter. So.
Okay, I thought that was a good question. I mean, there's other use, I mean, we could use that vehicle for other things when you guys don't have it. And that seems to be a pretty easy. I mean, rather than have it parked for the band, no offense, but I mean, if we're trying to keep our costs down with our vehicle, our fleet down, but I mean, this all comes back to we don't have the right matchup for the hitch for this trailer. So, I mean, I'm all right with getting the truck as long as everyone, you have another use for it besides just pulling the trailer.
We really don't have use for it, unfortunately. I mean, if I broke 2 plow trucks down at one time, then I would use it, but the board's been very good to us in replacing our plow trucks. We're in pretty good shape. I had some additional people that are now plowing in their trucks, so we are actually in really good shape as far as plowing, and that would be the only time I see that I would need it is if I broke unfortunately not one, but probably 2 trucks before I would need to borrow that truck.
Mr. Casper, I did touch base with Mr. Benson about the PMA and would they be able to help along with the purchase of this. And apparently right now, you said, Mr. Benson, they don't have those funds, but they are interested in obtaining sponsorship for advertising if we would be willing, or the board would be willing to do that. So that is something you could consider before you make your decision.
Let me just clarify. Other places, Quakertown, for example, they have gotten some corporate sponsorship. They've over time, they did a campaign over time, and they sell space on the actual trailer as advertisement, but that is something that I don't know what the district policy is and what we have thought of before. It's, you know, it's something that we can pursue. There's no guarantee, given any economic conditions that we have, that that would be a successful remuneration. Now, you had mentioned before about if we were to trade in the truck that we currently have, I mean, if we wait for 5 years for it to last for 5 years, that I'm assuming the trading value is going to diminish over time as it normally would. So if that was going to be a possible offset of expenses, I mean, it depends. In other words, I don't know. We know there's some trading value, but I don't know what kind of corporate sponsorship we would be able to access between them. That's just the idea that they had to pursue.
Didn't the band say in, this was in 2011, before we purchased the band uniforms, that the PMA said that they had $20,000 to put into band uniforms?
That,
Okay, but did the PMA pay for this?
no,
No.
they
And so,
actually, I don't know how much they have.
At the last PMA meeting that I was at, it says the checkbook balance is $19,400 and the savings balance is $8,600.
The 19,000, I believe, is points.
Now, the points balance is $12,387.
Again, I can't speak to the current status at that point. When I talked to the PMA president, and again, I'm not sure where some of the money is.
Yeah, this was handed out at the meeting last week, at the meeting that I went to last week.
Initially, the money that was spent for it was possibly going to be given to the raincoats. It was actually used, if you remember when we got our brand new uniforms, we didn't have enough uniforms to fit the band. So we had about a 2-month period where we had a band without uniforms. So the PMA purchased what are basically warm-up suits, the green warm-up suits, tops and bottoms, t-shirts, etc. They footed that entire bill for the whole band, and that was a huge chunk of the change.
Did the students keep those or they stayed with the band?
I think the students kept them after a year. I'm not sure I would want to. You know, using those, they were used pretty heavily, obviously, through the first portion of the fall and then in the later part of the summer. So.
Okay, well, we can't, I mean, if you can't pull a trailer, there's no sense getting it. But what I'm thinking is, we have another meeting the 23rd of this month. Can you guys get back together and maybe see what it would involve to, one, find another use for the truck, maybe, there has to be one perhaps, and maybe rebid this, or I guess, you know, do a trade-in, see what that looks like. And if you don't need that truck either, I think that most likely is going to end up with Kathy having to do something with the other, well, to throw the bids out, I'm guessing. Is that right?
I believe Mr. Cox is here. I believe I'm right. We could throw this bid out. It was a true bid. We could go back to CoStarz, get a CoStar pricing. If CoStarz would provide us with a trade, and I think that would be the option to get something back here on the 23rd. Otherwise, if we have to bid this out again, we're looking at a minimum of 3 weeks of advertising. So now you're looking at the minimal of getting something back here, perhaps the end of July.
I agree.
Okay, so we're gonna leave these items at, we're gonna revisit it, so you guys are gonna revisit it, and then you'll let us know before the next meeting what a new plan might be.
Yes.
Is that all right, everybody? Does that make any sense?
Jeff, would you just ask Pennridge why they can't or aren't willing to take that thing off? Is it a safety issue, or what are they saying?
It was a safety issue with welding plates on to create the hitch with that style of truck, with that large of a truck pulling that large of trailer. I can get a little more information, but that's what I remember them coming back and saying.
Yeah, does
They
anybody,
kind of implied that you might find somebody to do it, but they're not going to do it. So for me, that was enough to say, well, I'm not doing it.
When you talk about a large trailer on top, on the back of a large truck, I mean, it's just the sheer ability to do that, I think would be almost impossible. I couldn't imagine driving that truck along with the trailer behind it.
That
Yes,
throws
it
our
would be-
safety discussion out the window right there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anything else on that, those two items? So then we'll go to the next one. The floor tile abatement replacement quote. Does anybody have any questions about that? Nope, okay. The next one is the Hockey Yoder bleacher removal quote, or review the bid, rather. Board members have any questions on that? I think we got, everybody got the breakout in the email either yesterday or today.
Could we ask Dewey, representative from Dewey, if there's an answer to Mr. Yoli's scrap issue?
He wasn't here, so I was at that bid opening as well, and I think I'll explain what I know about this, and then we can go from there. The bid specs did not specifically ask for the contractor to give us their value for scrap in the bid document. I think it's important, and again, you have the information I sent to you, the big comparison, that we understand what $78,000 entails. First of all, $78,000 entails $24,845 of allowances that may or may not be used. So Flynn's original bid price for removing the bleachers only is $26,155. There was an additional $17,000 worth of electrical replacement and relocation work that needs to be done. There's $10,000 for site work, which is the stone and topsoil. Then we have fees and permits of $5,000. And we have 10% contingency of $7,800. Now, the $5,000 to $7,800 was not part of that $78,000. And we will have Dewey project management fees of $9,721. And I do believe I can speak for Flynn when we discussed with them, their bid of $26,155 to remove the bleachers was the lowest bid because they did take into consideration they would be getting a scrap value for the bid. So we did not request it, but they did give us that estimate when they, that discussion when we opened the bids.
Were they, any other people, any other contractors consider the scrap as part of the deal? Or
I think the low three contractors did take into consideration the scrap number, but the other bids were significantly higher. I think the highest one was $270,000+. With that number that high, I don't think they took into account. And you're not gonna get a scrap demolition project if you don't take into account some of that recycled money. And Flynn obviously saw the most amount of value in that and reflected it in their bid. So again, we held that $56,000 number as our estimate from the bleacher report. The rest of the work needed to be included because we have to disconnect the press box and the light panel that takes the electricity from the building to the overhead lights, the concession building, all that needs to be replaced because it's mounted to the structure of the bleachers and it's completely deteriorated from water. So the electrical work needs to happen, even if we didn't knock the bleachers down to the point where it needed to be fixed. And then the small amount of site work. So the bids reflected that, and I think we got a good number for the demolition of that project, taking into consideration the additional work.
Forgetting the scrap value, I understand what you say, but I have a question that said, if I recall, one of Dewey's reports indicated these bleachers in their current status are not ADA compliant, do not meet the needs of current specifications for bleachers at stadiums. So my question is could they, in your view, be given to somebody else, or would that give us then a liability?
I don't believe that you could relocate these bleachers anywhere else. The because you would have the same problem with the ADA accessibility. But if there was a format to make that happen, and you use smaller sections and fabricated them to meet their need, I guess the district could make the material available with no responsibility for what the use is with that, but I'm gonna say that that's not cost effective to try and relocate bleachers of that size to a smaller facility.
And I agree with you, but I think the general question was whether these things could be reused, and I think they are so deficient in terms of current standards.
I have a question on the site work here that's being done after the removal. Now, will more work be required depending on what is done as far as putting bleachers over there? Then once these bleachers are removed, the bleachers that'll be moved there, which I think are considered temporary because they're not put in.
Just to give you a quick scope of what's going on, they're gonna come in and take down the entire bleacher structure. We also need to knock down all the pier footings. I think there's over 170 plus footings that hold those up. They're gonna be knocked down to about a foot below grade, and then we're gonna topsoil and seed over top of that. So it'll be just one big grassed area. We're then putting in stone, geotextile fabric and stone to set the bleachers that are at the high school field presently on top of it.
Okay, anybody else? All right, thank you. Thanks, Mike. All right, the next item, number 5, is the draw schedule for the capital project fund. Kathy, that's going to be you, correct? Do you have that? Do you need that?
Thank you, Dr. Yarnell. As part of our capital projects this year, back in May, we borrowed $10 million. A portion of that was being used for capitalized interest. So the proceeds of the sale of 2008 available for capital projects is $9,252,066.19. One of the things that we have to decide as a district is what and how are we going to draw down those dollars. I provided a proposed schedule withdrawal for the capital projects that have been scheduled for this summer. These projects, these are the bid amounts, amount to $7,206,355. That number does not include dewey management fees. I would like to recommend to the board that we consider using our borrowed fees, our borrowed dollars for the capital projects for this year. And then place the remainder $2,455,711.19 with Pliget to invest out until July of next year when we would do any additional capital projects for next summer.
I don't need this, but, sorry, I don't need that, but I would like to know, is the reason for your recommendation the fact that the interest rates are dreadful currently? And therefore it's better to spend the money that is borrowed rather than trying to gain interest?
Most definitely. Again, the interest rates are terrible. I will tell you, we had this $9 million invested since May, and we gave the grand total of $50. So, yes, use it and.
Anybody else have any questions? Does this help you sort of disperse it so you don't get in trouble? Then we have a time period where we have to move this money.
With borrowed funds, we have to account for those very accurately. And again, we'll have a very large projects this summer that should flow very nicely for accounting-wise. And so the report back for arbitrage as we move forward. So yes, this for accounting reasons will have a very smooth flowing document.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay. All right, number 6 is the obsolete item review. And that's you again, Kathy? Do you have all that? No? If not, I have it.
to delete are things from the DEC. It's furniture from the Transportation Department. You'll see there's some workstations, filing cabinets, office furniture, and we would like to put that out to public surplus. Then we have from Barbara Elementary, we have TV units and tape players. We would like to scrap those because they have no value based on the age of the items and the conditions. The high school, we have information from the library there, and those would be books at the high school library. And again, we would put those out to public surplus. We also had some additional items that came from Booth on the addendum that are also books. We would be putting those out, and we would also recommending those to go out as well to public surplus. We also have items from Grass. These are weeded library books as well that we typically put out to public surplus as well. So those would be the items that I have as the addendum item 60 and E on the addendum agenda.
So I wanted to make a request about the Grass books. I've been speaking with the librarian there, and Grass is doing a summer book giveaway next week. They're having the students bring in books and just to stop, trying to get as many books into kids' hands so they can read over the summer. Grass has, I think, the free and reduced lunch population is about 20% at the school, which I think is the highest elementary school in the district. So there's been a lot of research showing that if kids have books over the summer, that it keeps them from regressing, their education. So when I was talking to the librarian, and she was saying, it would be good if we could give those books instead of sending them to public surplus, if we could put them out at the book giveaway and let the kids choose them. So it would need board approval. She's also the librarian at Siler, and she says there are even more boxes of books there, and Siler has a much lower free-reduced population, free-reduced lunch population, and she said the principal there was okay with sending those books over to Grass as well. I spoke with Mrs. Johnson about it, and she said, would need board approval, and it would need to be, I guess, recorded, and then the librarian would have to say which books were given away, and then which ones were going to public surplus.
Yes, that's correct. Our book collection is considered one of our capital assets because it does have a large value. We do depreciate that, and we must, as part of our annual process, we let our auditors know how much to depreciate, how much was removed from inventory, a value. So again, we would need to make sure our board policy does say nothing will leave the district's premises that belongs to the district unless it's been authorized. So I see this maybe as a two-step process. One process, and maybe in the future, this is something the board wants to do, we can have the librarians, provide a reading log. At some point, they have to determine which books then go to the students, and then which books, but all the books have to be obsoleted because they're coming off the library shelves. So, whatever process. I don't know if we have any librarians. Any librarians in the room?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I'm not quite sure how that process, how that impacts you, if that's a process that would work.
Yeah, there's other librarians that can speak as well, but there's definitely, it shows value that the books are being utilized, their school district property is being utilized for the students, that's the purpose of them anyway. We do go through the process of reading lodge, which is what you have in front of you. Determining the titles might be a little difficult, I think, which ones would be selected for the students, because there's so many on the list. So once they get scanned for reading, it just becomes a mass list, a very large list. So unless they did a two-step process, but there's really no way to determine, I guess, from the selection of books that have been reading which ones the kids will actually choose. So it might be difficult to see.
So you'd have to re-inventory